Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy baseball waiver wire show every Thursday at 4:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. Pacific. I am here as always with Kasey, Vlad to the Bone, Scheinvold, and Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody, I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk baseball waiver wire with you, cowboy. Before we start, the Toronto Blue Jays fired their manager yesterday. They didn't wait till the weekend or the All-Star break. They did it yesterday. I'll tell you why. You say, Ross, why would they fire him now? They're 46 and 44. They're over 500. They are not playing that great, but it's not his fault. But the long story short is Kansas City's coming to town. 10 players cannot play because they're not vaccinated, including some of their big names like Hunter Dozier. Do you know who that is? Hunter Dozier?
Oh, I remember.
Yes, we love Hunter Dozier here at the show. And Ian Happ. But 10 players in the Kansas City can't play. A lot of them are starters. So they're playing like their AAA team. Again, they'll probably get swept, I imagine. They're not going to compete well against Toronto in Toronto. But for me, it's just like you can't fire a manager after he sweeps a team. So they did it before the series. Get it, Kasey Scheinvold? Before the series.
You're brilliant.
So there's no controversy. So,
Ross, listen, I admit I had no idea where you were going with that. I was like, I don't know where this story is going to land, but I believed in you the whole way. I just want you to know.
I didn't doubt you for a second.
The ending is this. Toronto didn't want to wait. They knew that Kansas City's coming to town with a horrible roster, and they knew they're probably going to sweep Kansas City, and they can't fire the manager after the sweep. So
that's true. It would have been big.
But here's my question about all these midseason firings. You always hear the GM get on and talk about how much respect they have for that manager and how hard of a decision it is, but they just needed a new voice in the clubhouse, and then they just advanced the bench coach to manager.
Right?
How is that a new voice in the clubhouse?
That clubhouse was that man was always in the clubhouse.
Are you saying he was muzzled the whole time and he really hated what Montoya was saying?
I don't know. I just know if you're going to watch the Kansas City Royals Toronto game this weekend, pay attention to Kansas City's roster. It's a lot of the guys you never heard of.
Yeah, and meanwhile, if you are going to watch that game, more power to you. That's being a serious sports fan
or a Toronto fan.
We bow to you. Now, guys, we're here to talk waiver wire, of course. And I never even introduced myself. I'm Dr. Dan Radner, and I'm back, and I beat COVID to the ground. I feel much better now. Guys, let's talk about our top 4 pickups. It can be any position at all. Kasey, I'll give you 2, then we'll go to Ross for 2, then we'll go to me for 2. We're going to play it that way today.
All right. Well, my top one is somebody I mentioned last week, Ramon Lauriano for the Oakland Athletics outfielder. In the last 2 weeks, he's the number 2 ranked player in fantasy. This is a guy who was a power speed guy 3 years ago before the pandemic. He was actually considered one of the top probably 20 or 25 outfielders in fantasy, had a bad year or two. He seems to be back. He's not hitting for a great average, but the power, the speed, the production is there. He could get traded to a contender in the next couple of weeks. And one of those contenders, a few of them have pretty good hitters parks and much better lineups, obviously. So his numbers could only go up. And the second one is somebody who's not going to help you in power at all. And that's Yandy Diaz, the first baseman, third baseman for Tampa Bay. But he is hitting everything thrown his way, and he's scoring runs. He's driving in runs. In the past 2 weeks, he's hitting .469. So to not contribute with a single home run and still be the 27th ranked player in fantasy is pretty impressive.
And to put that in perspective, no one in the history of baseball has ever bat .469. Probably not even for like 3 weeks, let alone a whole season. So, they probably have for 3 weeks, but still.
I'm hitting over 800 in softball, just so you guys know.
Well, of course you are.
All right. Listen, Ross, hit us with 2 names that some of your top 4 pickups.
So top 4, I'll just do 2. Matt Carpenter, great mustache. I love this look. He was cut by the Rangers. I mean, a couple months ago, and he sent letters out to every ball team. Only team that picked up the phone was the New York Yankees. So he's played 26 games. He has 10 home runs, 22 RBIs. He has the best mustache in baseball. I mean, this guy's been killing the ball for the Yankees the whole year. He plays second base. He plays outfield. He can play different multiple positions too, which is great. But the only thing you got to watch out being a manager for him is when he plays. He doesn't play every day. They pick and choose when he plays. So you got to get the starting lineup and insert him when he plays and take him out when he doesn't play. But Matt Carpenter, for me, is my number one pickup. And my other pickup, he's an all-star. This guy's an all-star, and his brother's an all-star. First time 2 starting catchers are starting. William Contreras of the Atlanta Braves, I like this guy a lot. He's hitting in over 270. He has some power. In the catcher position, as we all know, Dr. Dan Ratner was crying about Salvador Perez earlier. Should I cut him? Should I keep him? But if you cut Perez, you should pick up Contreras. That's my idea.
All right. I think it's a great idea. Now we have someone saying hello to us. Hello, gentlemen. Hello, Ross, says Just Bob. Do you know him, Ross?
He's
just one of our fans. Since you've been gone, Just Bob has been a regular here at
Man, I was gone a long time.
He's a big Yankees fan. He was really stressing out last week about the Aaron Judge. Is he in the lineup? Is he not? He thought Aaron Boone was lying about the injuries.
I used my doctor's skill as a psychologist.
Yeah, we had to kind of talk him off the ledge a little bit, but he's doing okay.
My skills.
All right. Well, listen, thank you both for manning the fort. Just Bob, nice to finally meet you. I apologize.
This is Dr. Dan Ratner. He's one of the leading psychologists, therapists in the country. So if you have any questions about anything, you can.
He's one of the best therapists on this network. One of.
Well, that is high praise. All right, guys, I'm going to bring in 2 names that I really like. Ahmed Rosario. Well, I know we've talked about him before, but he really is tearing it up again this week. His numbers are all over the place. In the last month, he's the number 5 player. In the last 2 weeks, he's the number 36 player. And in the last 2 weeks, he's the number 266 player. And in the last week, he's 36. So he's going all over the place, but he's tearing the cover off the ball. The Guardians look really good to me, and he's got second base and shortstop and out. No, it's just shortstop and outfield eligibility. That's good eligibility. Christopher Morrell is another player like that. I've been pushing him for a long time.
But I think he's 65%. I think he's 65% owned now, Dan.
Is he?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that. I'll tell you what. I'll throw out a picture of that.
It was under 60 a few days ago.
It was under 60 before Dan went and got COVID.
God. I'm still recovering from COVID.
It's okay. He's under 70, which is fine.
People don't mention this. One of the side effects of COVID is complete amnesia about what's happening in sports. It just happens. But listen, I'm going to mention a pitcher. It's Kyle Finnegan, or is it Tyler Finnegan? See, I have
Kyle Finnegan. Kyle Finnegan.
He's taking over as closer because Tanner Rainey went down for the next 2 months.
2 months.
If you need a closer, scoop him up now.
He pitches for that great organization, the Washington Nationals, which probably be lucky to win 10 games the next 2 months.
It's true, but even teams that win 10 games, they still get about 5 saves, maybe 6.
Okay, fine.
Just Bob, by the way, says Ross, you were big help, so big shout out to you. But if you do need a closer, I think it's Tyler Finnegan. Pick him up. He looks good.
We'll talk about that. I disagree on that one, but keep going.
Interesting. All right, we're going to hear from that. Well, I'm not going to keep going because we're cycling back to Kasey. Any other players that you would mention as big pickups?
Well, I mean, one person I've been kind of on the soapbox or bandwagon for a few weeks now is Esteury Ruiz, who just got called up for the San Diego Padres. He's playing every day in the outfield, but he qualifies at second base only right now. Should have outfield eligibility by the end of this weekend. But he's 4 for his first 9 with a run, an RBI, and a stolen base already. And this is a guy who had 60 stolen bases in 77 games between AA and AAA. We're talking like Vince Coleman, Ricky Henderson sort of stolen base with a .333 batting average and almost a .400 on-base percentage. Imagine Adalberto Mondesi with plate discipline. That's what this guy's ceiling is if he keeps doing what he's doing.
Also not injured.
And not injured, right.
There you go. Okay, now, it is not Tyler Finnegan. It is Kyle Finnegan, which was my first instinct. I'm still recovering from
Kyle Finnegan.
I apologize. All right. You know what? In the interest of time, we're going to go straight to catchers. We need to get to business. What catchers would you pick up? Ross, I'm going to let you go first.
So I mentioned William Contreras. Another guy, we just call him Murph here. Like remember Dale Murphy? We called him Murph. We call this guy Murph. Sean Murphy of the Oakland A's. Past 2 weeks, Kasey Scheinfeld, he's hitting .348 with 6 doubles. 6 doubles, Kasey Scheinfeld.
Oh, my God.
So
Ross, you scare me when you do that.
Yeah.
So those are my catchers. The other guy I mentioned every week, he hasn't slowed down, this guy, Eric Hasse of the Detroit Tigers. He's still hitting over 3. He's hitting .345 the past 2 weeks. He can't not get cold. He just stays hot. So all 3 of these catchers I like a lot. if you have Salvador Perez, he's not coming back anytime soon, Dr. Dan Ratner. So
it makes it sound like I really was crying about that. I simply asked a question. Kasey, how about you? What catchers?
There weren't, yes, he mentioned Eric Hassey and Sean Murphy. Cal Raleigh is the only other one who's, I think, really worthy. MJ Melendez is still out there at 45%, but Cal Raleigh in the last 2 weeks, not only does he have 2 home runs and 11 RBIs, but he even chipped in a stolen base from the catcher position. So he's not hitting for a great average, but the Major League Baseball isn't about averages anymore, and he's contributing to the other categories. So that's somebody who I would look at.
All right, now we have a comment that Jose Miranda is on fire. Obviously, that is not talking about catcher, but we're going to talk about Jose Miranda shortly.
Third baseman, yeah.
But in terms of catcher, this is a very deep dive name, and I am a Cleveland fan, so humor me. But Bo Naylor is tearing it up in the minors.
Josh Naylor's younger brother.
Josh Naylor's younger brother. If you need some help, rumors are he's going to get called up and get some playing time. So you could do worse than him. Also, if you need somebody in pinch, I think Jorge Alfaro is hitting decently well. Not great. Look, catcher position is a disaster. But Alfaro, not too bad, and a 268 average at that. If you can get a catcher who hits for decent average and isn't hurting you in that can be helpful. Let's move to first base. Ross, who you got?
So I want to see Dan's face when I mention his name. Are you ready, guys?
Oh, yes.
Here it is.
Are you ready?
Hunter Dozier.
Hunter Dozier. We knew it was coming.
Hunter Dozier. If people don't know, Dan despises Hunter Dozier.
I do not despise
That's a harsh characterization of Dan's feelings about him.
There's a horrible past with Dr. Dan Ratner and Hunter Dozier. I don't know what it is. But Hunter Dozier's hitting 350, Dan Ratner, in the past 2 weeks. 2 home runs, 9 RBIs. This guy, he's not going to play this weekend, though, because he didn't get vaccinated. So there you go. But after this weekend, if you need a guy playing first base, I think he plays third base also. It's good. It's not a bad pickup. Also, Wilmer Flores, he plays like every position. So talking about utility, Wilmer, I love Wilmer. I have him in our league. He's a great utility guy. He sits on the bench a lot, but sometimes I throw him in there. But the past 2 weeks, 333 Kasey Scheinfeld, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, Kasey Scheinfeld. That's in 2 weeks. So there you go. And then you mentioned Diaz already, so I'm not going to mention him now.
Oh, but you just did.
I did, kind of.
I'm sorry. I had to call you out for that. All right, listen, Hunter Dozier also qualifies in the outfield. I have no problem picking up Hunter Dozier, especially as a short-term pickup. But just don't expect it to last. Now, Just Bob said about Jose Miranda, sorry, brain fart. And then he laughed. And we're with you, Just Bob. If anybody's having brain farts, it's me because of COVID. Kasey, first base.
First base. Well, I have Jose Miranda on that list, but I was going to put him as a third baseman. I have Matt Carpenter as a first baseman because I think that's predominantly where he helps. But I'm going to mention Nathaniel Lowe still for Texas. He's still at 53% owned. The guy's been a solid contributor all year. Is he spectacular? No. There's not a lot of spectacular on the waiver wire at this point, but Nathaniel Lowe is going to give you a solid average, solid power, solid RBIs. And he continues to do it. 273, 9 runs scored, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs in the last 2 weeks. And that's pretty status quo for him. And if he can do that, if he can chip in a couple of home runs a week, some decent RBIs while giving you a good average, he's not going to hurt your team. So that's one. And then, I love my prospects. So Vidi Pasquantino is starting to figure out in Kansas City. I'm pretty sure he's vaccinated, so he's making the trip. And he has the potential to help you incredibly down the final stretch run with his power and hitting ability.
Now, we do have an observation.
He's vaccinated.
He's vaccinated. Okay, we do have an observation about Hunter Dozier that if he doesn't play for 3 days, he probably won't come back hot. I'm with you. Jake Bob. I don't expect him to keep it up.
Hunter Dozier, you agree with.
If you're the New York Yankees, and you're in dire need of a left fielder or a center fielder, a left-handed bat, and Andrew Benintendi was one of the guys you were looking at, but you still have 6 games left in Toronto the rest of the season, does he become not a trade target for you?
Interesting. Ross, what do you think?
I think the Yankees have already said they have interest in Andrew a lot. I still think he's a trade target just because the Yankees, how many games are they in first place? Does it matter?
14 or 15.
Doesn't matter. All they care about is the playoffs. That's all.
Yeah, but Toronto's a wild card team. And so if you end up playing them in the second or third round of the playoffs, you could have 3 of 7 games in Toronto.
He'll get vaccinated if it's that serious. I mean, I think
I don't think so. I mean, these guys they take their stance and they stick with it. I mean,
I don't know.
All right, I'm going to mention one guy at first base that we haven't mentioned. You mentioned Wilmer Flores, right, Ross?
I love Wilmer Flores. I have him on our team. Yes.
Yeah, he's first base, second base, and third base. But you mentioned.
Plays every
I'm going to go with Jonathan Shoop. I know there's lots of ways to pronounce his name. I've been told.
I've heard it as Scoop. Yeah.
I've heard it as
Scoop. I've heard it as Scoop.
Scoop.
I just say Jonathan Shoop.
Plays for Detroit.
Just Bob and I are on the same team though about Hunter Dozier. I can't buy into him. Look at his career numbers; they're just not that. They're terrible. And I don't hate Hunter Dozier. I actually
you do. Him and Ian Happ are your two most hated players in Major League Baseball. Yes,
they are the two players that I don't understand why people value them the way they do. That's very different. All right, let's move to second base. Even though Jonathan Shoop qualifies there, Kasey, we'll start with you. Who at second base is the guy that you'd want to scoop up?
At second base, Matt Carpenter's there also, but I like Yandy Diaz. And I like him because with Pena getting hurt so much, he's getting a lot of playing time at shortstop. And you talk about Wilmer Flores qualifying at multiple positions. Yandy Diaz qualifies at first, second, third, short, and outfield. And in the last
pitcher.
But not pitcher or catcher. Those are the only two places. And in the last 2 weeks, 343, 3 home runs, a stolen base, 8 runs scored, 6 RBIs. So he's contributing at least average in every category and above average in most. And you can plug him literally in every position except catcher on your offense.
I really am liking Just Bob, by the way. He just said Happ is overrated. Paper Tiger. I found my baseball soulmate.
Oh gosh. He's a Yankee fan. I just want you to know that.
Well, that's okay. Nobody's perfect.
Yes, he is.
One guy we've talked about him a bunch, but Nico Horner still 39% rostered. I do not understand that.
And continues to rake.
His average is great, but he's killing the ball. He's been doing it for a while. Nico Horner qualifies at second base and shortstop. I'd scoop him up. Ross,
by the way,
if
I can interject real quick, Esteury Ruiz, who I talked about, qualifies at second base right now, and I think he's a priority pickup. He'll be an outfield second base by the end of the weekend.
Got it. Ross, who would you add?
Whatever Kasey talked about, I ditto it because I had the same players Kasey had.
No matter
Diaz,
what it is.
And Diaz, to me, I've never seen 5 positions availability in my life. So if you need a utility guy, Diaz is hitting over 300, and he's just going to get better when he plays more.
Funny, when I first started playing fantasy baseball in 1993 or 92, there was a player for the then Florida Marlins when they were just the expansion team. I think it might have been 94. Jerry Brown. We called him the governor because the governor at the time was Jerry Brown. He qualified at every position on the field in fantasy baseball. That's the first time I ever saw that.
Browne, right? That's
right.
With an E at the end. That's correct. The governor. Okay.
I just dated myself, but that's okay.
You did. It's not the first time you've dated yourself. All right. Gavin Lux, also, I'd like to mention, and Nick Senzel. Nick Senzel is really coming on. Just keep an eye on him.
I think he's over 60%.
No, Nick Senzel's at 25%.
Oh, is he? Okay. We talked about him last week. Nick Senzel,
I think he was our cover boy last week.
He's hurt this week. He's hurt right now, but yes.
He's actually back. He did get dinged up, but he's back. Just Bob, meanwhile, says Yankee fan, baseball lover, fantasy fanatic. Sounds like my kind of guy. And, Kasey knows how much I used to hate the Yankees.
Oh, yes.
Since the Cavs won the championship in 2016, I've really mellowed. I don't mind the Yankees so much. We're going to go to third base. And, Ross, we're going to start with you.
Just don't mention Jose Mesa.
We talked about him already, but the past 2 weeks, this guy's hitting 343, 3 home runs, 15 RBIs. I mean, this guy's been a machine. I mean,
he hit a walk-off 3-run home run off Josh Hader yesterday.
I saw. And I have Josh Hader in our league, and I'm pissed. He plays for Minnesota. It's a good place to play. The ball flies out of there in the summertime. Jose Morenda right now, I think if you need a third baseman or first baseman, it's a good pickup. Go get him. He's like the only – but we have so many guys that we talked about that are multi-facets, that are unicorns. They can play anywhere. So,
that's not a unicorn. Unicorns
not a unicorn, but they're
unusual.
Okay,
utility, whatever. But I'm trying to think of an animal reference, but I can't think of one. But Jose Morenda is my big pickup at third base this week.
Who would argue with you? I mean, he's got huge talent, And he's playing extremely well.
And he gets great tickets to Broadway shows.
That because of
his uncle.
Lin-Manuel.
Yeah, his
cousin, correct?
Or cousin, one of those two, yeah.
I think they're like second cousins, right? Yeah.
Well, Jose Morenda is definitely my top pickup at third base. But, Yandy Diaz, we already talked about. Wilmer Flores is a good kind of plug-and-play kind of guy.
Alec Boehm is not a bad pick either. Alec Boehm is batting 367 with a couple home runs and 7 RBIs in the last 2 weeks. So with Bryce Harper out, the other Phillies are stepping it up, and he's one of them.
Yep.
True. He's currently unvaccinated and sitting in this current series, but that could be a time to capitalize. Scoop him up. All right, how about shortstops, guys? Unless we missed anybody at third base.
Is Corey Seeger, is he over 60%?
I will check, but I think that he's over 98%.
So Corey Seager, I don't know if you guys followed this, but 4 games, 4 home runs. He's like on fire. I don't know if you guys play daily fantasy sports. You got to start him every day. I mean, this guy's just on fire.
Especially if you're playing daily.
Yeah.
Every day.
But the only pickup I have, but again, we talked about a lot of players that can play shortstop. He plays for Colorado. And if Colorado is playing at home, you want to start him. If they're not, you don't have to. Jose Iglesias, 349, 2 home runs, 10 RBIs the past 2 weeks. Not too shabby, Casey Scheinfeld. I like that a lot.
I like it. I like it a lot.
They're playing at home, and they play this weekend against Pittsburgh at home. So if you need a shortstop and you need somebody to start, and your shortstop, let's say, is Wander Franco, and he's hurt, and he's out till, let's say, late August or late September, Iglesias is your guy.
Well, as usual, I agree with Just Bob. He says Lux, plug-and-play fill-in. I think Lux is a great pickup right now. He qualifies as second base, shortstop, and in the outfield, and he's just putting up good numbers, and he's not even stealing bases yet, and that's what we're really looking for.
Yeah.
We are informed that Corey is over 60%, but Bob Seeger is only 15% owned.
That's
so
right.
The question is, who are the 15% that picked up Bob Seeger?
And I'll happily trade you Kyle Seeger.
Yeah, listen, didn't Bob Seeger sing Against the Wind? It's all about aging. But he's 15% owned. He's playing against the wind. Love it. Gavin Lux would be a top pick of mine. I already mentioned Nico Horner. We're going to move to outfield unless you guys have anyone to add at shortstop. Oh, no takers? Okay, we're going to outfield. Ross, we'll start with you.
Outfield, we talked about Harold Ramirez, Tampa Bay. He's been hitting over 400 the past 2 weeks. I still like Andrew McCutchen. He plays Milwaukee. He's still hitting over 300 for the past 2 weeks. I'm going to jump on the Baltimore Oriole bandwagon. And you're saying, Ross, what do you mean? Baltimore, how many games? They won 9 games in a row. They're over 500 for the first time in years. I mean, this team is surprising everybody. I mean, Dan Ratner picked them to come in last. You heard me, last in their division early in the season.
And so did Ross.
I picked them to come in last too, so don't feel bad. Anthony Salamander, did I say it right, Dan?
Santander,
I knew I did.
You're thinking of animals.
But he's been hitting, for the past 2 weeks, he's hitting 272. He has RBIs. But I just want to grab a player from Baltimore because I got to take my hat off. Let me just take my toupee off real quick. No, I'm kidding. But I feel that Baltimore, their pitching staff, the young players are all coming together and they're playing really good baseball. And I'm rooting for them now. I hope they make the playoffs. We'll see what happens.
We actually have a comment from a Baltimore fan. Eric Alvarez says, 10-game winning streak. Should I be excited as an Orioles fan or chill out of it?
No, be excited.
Enjoy the ride, man.
They have some great pitchers. They have Watkins and Mays. They have some great guys. I mean,
I think they're a 2024 playoff team, but with all their young talent, once they reach that point, if they can hang on to their players, they're going to be good for a long time. So it's a good time to be an Orioles fan.
I actually predict that they're going to push for the playoffs next year. It could even be this year. I mean, look at what they're doing.
Yeah, with 3 wild cards and the way everybody else is playing. Although Seattle's super hot right now too, and they could easily
Seattle's won 9
I'll tell you though. I'll tell you why you should be excited. It's because the culture's changing. It's not just that you're winning.
Yeah.
It's that they're starting to believe. When a team starts to believe, that's when it's turning the corner.
I went to the University of Maryland, and went to plenty of Baltimore games because the culture was. By September, when the Yankees came to town, I could go see the Yankees as a Yankees fan for $7 and get good seats because everybody was trying to ditch their tickets every Orioles fan was trying to ditch their tickets by then. And that happened for with the exception of a few years in the 2010s, like every year from 1995 until last year. So the fact that it's more exciting to be there is a great time to be an Orioles.
So you were there when Brooks Robinson was there and Jim Palmer. You were there during those years, correct?
I love how you lump in Brooks Robinson with Jim Palmer as if they were there at the same time.
Yeah, no.
But these are great Orioles references. He was there when Cal Ripken was there.
I was there when Brady Anderson would rollerblade shirtless to the stadium for his games.
And Dane Ratner still does that, yes.
And guess what? Just Bob has agreed with me again. He says, I'm on point. Culture is huge. I saw it when the Guardians, formerly the Indians, when they started to turn that culture around. We had been bad for 30 years. When you start to win, you believe you can. It's totally different. Guys, there's all kinds of outfielders we could mention, but Santana was way up on my list because I'm excited about the Orioles. I'll mention Alec Thomas also. He's a young, talented player. He's up and coming. Riley Green also. We know he's
is he less than 60%?
They're both less than 60%.
I knew Alec Thomas was. I wasn't sure Riley Green was. And I'll just mention Ramon Lauriano. I mentioned him at the top, but this is a guy who is really good for Oakland right now. And if he goes to a better lineup where has more production opportunities, he could be a difference maker going down the stretch.
Okay, but speaking of Orioles moving to starting pitching, I picked up 2 Baltimore pitchers. 2.
Did you ever think you'd say that?
No,
Tell us who
I did
they
not.
are.
And they weren't even the players that I thought I'd pick up. Jordan Lyles and Spencer Watkins.
They're 2 of my top 5. Yeah,
they're both pitching well.
Spencer Watkins, the past 2 weeks, 2-0, 1.53 ERA. And I know when you pick up pitchers, you always look at the innings pitched to the strikeouts. What is that, Dan?
Well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? It could be that perhaps you were wrong about me. I pick up good pitchers, and it just depends on what you need. And if you're in a head-to-head league, and let's say you're not even in the strikeout categories, go ahead and pick up a player like Jordan Lyles. These guys are pitching well. There is one other.
And with the exception of one start, by the way, Tyler Wells has been awesome for the Orioles for over a month.
That's
he
true.
looks like Cy Young. I mean, the guy has great starts.
This is another thing that happens with culture. They're rubbing off on each other. They're believing in it. I think they've got something special there.
Like young guns. They look great.
I'm going to mention one other guy, Eric Lauer. We've mentioned him before. No, I can't mention him. 66% rostered. Last time I looked,
mention him. Take that name out.
That did not happen. Did not even happen.
Forget it happened.
I'll
mention somebody who has notoriously struggled with his command, so I don't know how much of a long-term answer it is, but Alex Wood in San Francisco. He's 50% owned. He's been pitching incredible. It's a good pitcher's park that he pitches in at home, so that's somebody you can look at, although his whip can get out of whack from time to time. It's not bad right now. And then the other guy I'll mention, actually I already did, Tyler Wells. I still like him, even though he had a bad start a couple starts ago. He's been still putting up solid numbers.
Not David Wells, but Tyler Wells.
I love David Wells. I'm a Yankee
Wells
fan. So
he tortured us. He tortured us when we were
Wells.
The Indians.
He's a guy's guy.
I think he was hammered when he pitched. But
another pitcher I like, just because he pitches in Arizona, it's Morrell Kelly. And I don't think he'll be on the team at the end of the month. He's 2-0 right now with a 2.21 ERA the past 2 starts. So this guy's been really wheeling and dealing, but he's not going to be a Diamondback in a couple of weeks. He'll be traded away to the Yankees or Boston. He'll go to a playoff contender, obviously, just because he's pitching too well to play in Arizona, and that's what happens to bad teams. They lose to other good players. And the other guy that pitches for the Mets is David Peterson. Listen to this stat. 25 Ks, 15 innings, the past 2 starts. He was 1-1, but he's just, if you need strikeouts, this guy you should pick up immediately.
Wow.
David
Good tip.
Peterson.
I like it. We have a comment coming in from Olivia's and Alley Boy 760. He says, he or she says, I'm dropping Luis Severino. Not sure if he comes back. I actually dropped Luis Severino months ago. And I'm not saying you should have. I'm just saying I'm echoing that, yeah, I could certainly see it. Casey, what do you think about it?
Well, he gave up back-to-back home runs to start the second inning against the 7, 8, 9 hitters of the Cincinnati Reds. So that's usually not a good indicator that you have stuff. And then he came out to warm up in the top of the third, didn't even pitch to a batter, took himself out of the game. They're having an MRI on his right shoulder. That's a pretty bad situation there. You know, the Yankees are going to be cautious with him. So I don't think it's a bad drop. He had been pitching pretty well the month and a half before that. He hasn't been getting the strikeout numbers. that he did pre-Tommy John, but that could have just been his working his way back into form. But it's if you have the IL spot, you can stash him. But I think as a Yankee fan, I hate to say it, but I think it's pretty safe to drop him.
I just think sometimes we have to give people permission to cut somebody, and Luis Severino is that he's that kind of player. There is a question also from the same commenter. Does Kyle Muller have a shot? Ross, what do you think?
He's not. He's not tested. I
think he throws Ross.
I've not seen him at all. I've seen him do nothing yet. So for me, I have no opinion on Kyle Miller.
Yeah. Oh, I want to back up though. Just Bob has pointed out, and he is a Yankees fan. The Yankees had also mentioned that they're going to curb Severino's innings anyway. All the more reason to drop him. And he's saying Cortez also is somebody you might want to watch out for that.
Cortez pitches today, but also the Yankees are going to they'll probably get Castillo, or they'll get Kelly, or they'll get some big pitcher to come in there and be a starter. Trust me.
All right, let's wrap up on relief pitchers. Relief pitchers, I want to take a particular angle at this that we'll get to more next week, because we're coming up towards the trade deadline. When it comes time for the trade deadline, you've got to own those backup closers for players who are going to be shipped out, because you're going to get a closer for free, and you can pounce on it right now. So some of those players, there is the pitcher on the Pirates, Yuri De Los Santos would be a guy that I would scoop up, because David Bednar, I actually thought he was going to get dealt. Now he's actually pitching so badly right now, I'm not even sure they're going to be able to deal him. But Yuri De Los Santos is a guy that I would be investing in right now. He's pitching well. He seems to be the backup guy there. Bednar likely to either get demoted or dealt. Either way. Guys, who would you add to this list?
Tanner Scott from Miami, 5 saves the past 2 weeks. 5 saves.
Yeah.
That's really good for a team that isn't supposed to do that well. And then we talked about Will Smith, not the guy that slapped Chris Rock, and not the guy who plays catcher for the Dodgers, but Will Smith, the pitcher for Atlanta. We all thought he was going to be the save guy in Atlanta, but it's not. It's AJ Minter.
And they just activated Kenley Jansen back off the IL.
Yeah, when Kenley Jansen went on the IL with that issue.
Before he went on the IL, he's been getting destroyed. Kenley Jansen has not looked good. AJ Minter looks really good. I think it's his job, if I had to guess, but they could put Jansen back in there. But I would pick up AJ Minter just because I feel he's going to be the closer for the rest of the year. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I would add, obviously Brett Martin is doing a nice job in Texas, and he's going to be, I don't know if he'll be dealt.
Kasey, I never heard of the guy.
I hadn't either. But the guy who I think fits into the category you were talking about, Dan, and I don't know if he's going to be the closer when everything settles, but AJ Puck in Oakland, the guy has incredible stuff. He's this giant of a left-handed human who throws super hard with super movement. The last 2 weeks, he's 7 innings, 12 strikeouts. The guy is he's got amazing stuff. And he could be somebody who, if they trade a few relievers, could end up in that closer's role for Oakland.
I totally agree. And Lou Trevino right now seems like you could pick him up for cheap, but he's probably going to get dealt, because he's actually. Yeah,
and he'd be a 7th inning guy on a Contender.
Right. Yeah, Lee Trevino, I remember when he played golf, he was a great golfer. Unbelievable. And it's amazing how he's. And remember a pitcher for Seattle named Eric Plunk? You guys remember him at all?
Oh, do I remember Eric Plunk? He was on the 95 Indians.
I was going to say, that's his closer from back in the day.
Yeah, so he was on Seattle.
He was never the closer.
Seattle. I used to see him. I was going to school in Arizona, so I would see him at spring training all the time. He was like this big doofus guy that you would never think was a baseball player. He wore the thick glasses, and he looked.
I know the thick glass. I loved it.
The thick glasses. It was like no idea this guy played baseball, and he was the nicest guy. But when I see Puke's name, I always think of Eric Plunk. I don't know why.
Another guy I'd mention is Michael King. We have a couple Yankees fans watching, or at least one.
You're a Yankee lover. Yankee.
But think about it. Clay Holmes in his last 2 outings has looked awful. I'm not saying that he's not going to figure it out. What?
He's the best closer in the American League, Clay Holmes.
But he's in New York, where the leash is about that long to be closer. And in those games where he sucked,
what are you talking
they haven't given Aroldis Chapman a chance. Michael King lights out. They might look to him. But I'm just saying, it's somebody who's going to give you good peripherals all the time and could get some saves.
I love seeing this is what it was like when I was gone. But guys, we have some comments. Just Bob has mentioned you can drop Baz officially, Shane Baz. It's true. He's got an elbow injury. It does not seem like he's coming back this season. It's time. Yeah, Olivia's an alley boy. What?
I was going to say, but you should pick up Max Meyer in Miami because Miami's going to trade a couple starters, get their youth up there. Max Meyer has been dominant in the minors, strikeout guy, own him, and hope for the best.
Now, Olivia's an alley boy.
I
keep trying to say this comment. I'm sorry, Olivia's an alley boy 760. I'm trying to get a word in edgewise. They said, thank you for your thoughts. Just subscribed and click the like button. Cheers. Thank you. That's what we like to hear.
All right. Thank you. We like you.
We love to talk fantasy sports with you. Put your comments below, and we will keep talking. Just Bob, by the way, says these dudes are awesome, and we appreciate you, Just Bob. You're awesome, too. And I'm not just saying that because we happen to be agreeing on everything. We'll see how that continues. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up here. Next week, we're on. Same time next week, Thursdays, 4:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. Pacific. We're going to bring you lots of guys that you should pick up because the trade deadline is coming. Values are going to be changing.
Are they called handcuffs? Is that what we call it now? It's like...
Well, we called them handcuffs in football.
Cuffs.
I know.
Yeah, that's right. They were in our
So is it baseball like if we want to get a closer that's not the closer right now, but he will be when the closer gets traded, is that a handcuff or not?
I think it is.
Or an insurance policy, you could call it. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think a handcuff has a much nicer ring to it. So we'll end on that note. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Put your comments below. We're happy to talk with you about fantasy sports anytime. We're trying to stay right on top of who you need to get because we know to win, you got to stay on top of the waiver wire all year, at least through August. And then people start to lose their bearings and stuff. Then you can pick up some
it's
great
football
players.
season. No one cares about baseball when football season's on.
That's right. All right. Take care, Just Bob. Take care, Olivia's an Alley Boy 760. Everybody else who's watching, it's been a pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you next week.
Kill Cliff Octane. New flavor. Laser Lemon. Plus 125 milligrams of clean caffeine. No sugar.
25 milligrams of CBD.
Meow available at killcliff.com.